Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video we'll be going over Assassination Rogues in patch 8.3 for PvE. No matter which spec of rogue you play, it is hard to deny that Assassination is not one of the best and the easiest specs of rogue to play that slams in single target damage. So in this video I'm going to go over everything you need to know about playing Assassination Rogue in order to perform the best in terms of single target raw output damage. Give you guys all the tools you need, all the best trinkets, the best traits that you should be running. If you want to get serious with any specs that you play, you could just stick to the spec that you like, which is generally what I do. But you should still learn what the meta specs play like. There's been some fights in Eternal Palace where on Zakul, I actually had to go Assassination if we didn't have enough players on that know how to do the down phase, where you go into the Insanity realm and you have to fight, or Delirium realm, and you have to fight the Delirium ad. That fight needs a lot of burst damage, and while I love my Outlaw, it doesn't put up nearly as easily in terms of single target raw burst as Assassination. I mean, with Assass, it's literally as simple as pressing Vendetta and popping Rock Boy and then just going slamming Envenoms into a target. So Assassination, I feel like, is a spec most people should have ready. If you want to get ever serious with your rogue, play whatever spec you like in the end, but Assassination should be something everyone should learn. So to start off with Assassination, we're going to start off with the talents. How do you want to build yourself for single target PvE combat? Level 15 row elaborate planning is the only obvious answer. Level 30 has Master Assassin as the go-to. There is some play with Subterfuge and one Azeroth trait called Shrouded Suffocation. Shrouded Suffocation as a trait increases the damage of your Garrote, and it gives you 2 extra column points to work with. So it gives you a slightly different opener, and it's great for cleaves. This is something you'll be using in Mythic Plus dungeons. But in most cases, in raid fights, unless the fight actually does have cleave, you will want to go for Master Assassin for the raw single target output. When you vanish to give yourself 50% more critical strike, I mean, that's just super value. Level 45 Vigor ends up being the best choice, and is going to be probably the best choice until the end of this patch. Level 60 Cheat Death is a great safety net in case you get caught by mechanics, but also can use Cheat Death in order to tackle mechanics, like staying on top of the boss, knowing that you will proc Cheat Death, but you can continue pushing out more damage in order to min-max your output. Level 75, it really doesn't matter what you run. Bosses are not going to care about this. This is where you'll be able to control ads. Prey in the Weak, however, can be good, and I believe in the fight for Hive Mind, there are certain ads that can be kidney shotted. So you pop in kidney shot and those things will allow your team to swap on them and deal with them more effectively. Level 90, Toxic Blade will be the viable option right now. I guess if you're running some crazy amount of Subterfuge, Shrouded, Exsanguinate could be viable, but it hasn't been the meta for the longest. I guess you could make a build with it, but Toxic Blade right now is the only one you need to care about. And level 100, the only one talent that we get a new single target value off is Poison Bomb, which is also good even in AoE situations every time it procs, since we have quite a bit of poison damage on us with Toxic Blade. So those are going to be the talents that we'll be playing with. Depending on your talent build, you are going to have different stats, different traits, and different builds that work. Of course, subscribing to a website like RaidBots and utilizing it, maybe getting the add-on where you type in SimC in your chat to pull up your full setup of your rogue, hitting Control-C or Control-C and closing it. Going to the website and pasting all your information there might be a best way for you to get the more accurate information. Let's say you have a little bit extra crit or mastery or versatility. The website will adjust to your playstyle, to the gear that you have. Whether you're someone who is at end game gear or someone who's just starting to gear Assassination, the website will give you all the tools you need in order to figure it out. I have a link down below of me utilizing RaidBots, and it's an older video, but still it will function for what we are doing here. But I don't want to really dive into RaidBots in this video in particular, or too deep into it. Since this is the setup that we're going for our single target, what is our gear looking like? Traits are going to be mostly double dose for single target. This is a bread and butter of Assassination. The more of those you can have in your gear, the better. One of the traits you will want to have at least one off in your gear is Nothing Personal. Vendetta will tag on extra 40k nature damage over 20 seconds, which is quite good, and grants 40 energy over 20 seconds. That's 1 energy per second. Doesn't seem like a lot, but over 20 seconds to get 40 energy back does mean more mutilates, which means more double doses. And outside of that, we have the brand new trait in the raid gear, which I'm playing with, Heart of Darkness. Your secondary stats are all increased by a set amount. It does scale the higher the gear is. Like, this is a normal piece, you have a heroic and you have your mythics. This one gives you 77 extra stats if your corruption level is above 25. I am playing with some corruptions, so this is my current playstyle, and I think a lot of Assassination Rogues actually like this Heart of Darkness, since Assass loves secondary stats. Just about every secondary stat for Assassination is good. So this is the gear that we're running with, and again, using raid bots will give you a little bit different information if you are not running exactly that. But the idea is still simple. Double dose, stack it as much as you can, have at least one nothing personal, and then every other trade that either gives you critical strike or anything that continues to further increase your damage. Talking about the stats, I am going to be having my stats increase by this corruption bonus, so this is something to be taken into account. But also the website, raid bots, also takes this into account. Right now I have 30% critical strike. This is a great stat. The more of that you have in AoE fights in particular, the better. And in PvE single target, critical strike is always going to be good, but you don't want too much of it committed. A lot of rogues are right now are running about 1,600 points into crit, 1,600 points into haste. For me right now, haste is simming a lot lower, so my haste is about 17%, keeping it between 17, 18, or even 20% is the more recommended number. My mastery is at 50% with 15, almost 1,600 worth of stats. A lot of rogues are at that, but the game actually is telling me I need more versatility. And I guess in a sense you could try to balance all these stats the best as possible, not to have too much of any one stat. Haste is always going to be a great stat when you first start out on your rogue, but I feel like the more gear I get, the less value it has over time. The game is telling me right now, commit all my points into critical strike and versatility through sims. But if you're just starting out on your rogue, focus on haste and critical strike. If you feel like you are at mid-tier, try to keep all these stats, or at least the top 3, as close to each other as possible. And if you're getting towards the end game into Neolotha and you're starting to pick up some good pieces of gear, critical strike and versatility are going to become a lot more valuable than mastery and haste. But of course, sim your rogue, because assassination is one of those specs that's extra finicky on secondary stats. Let's talk about some of the gear that you might want for your Assassination Rogue. I know, we haven't even gotten to the combat and the gameplay and rotation and anything along those lines, because Assassination is a lot of prep work, but the playstyle itself ends up being very simple. Some of the trinkets that are doing really good right now for Assassination, if you still have Ashvin's Razor Coral from the last raid, keep it. It doesn't matter what item level, keep using it. It's an insanely good trinket. The critical strike it provides you is quite high. Blizzard might nerf this trinket at a later time, and if they do, then this trinket might fall out of meta. But as of right now, even at 445, it might end up being the best choice that rogues have right now, and I mean all 3 specs of rogues, for end game, even with comparing to fully highest item level, best corruption, mythic trinkets available in the new raid. Another trinket that's also insanely good for Assassination is going to be from Raden. You might want to pick this up on normal or heroic if ever possible. Here, Raden has 2 trinkets. We're looking at Vita Charge Titan Shard. It gives you haste and has a proc for haste. If you're running with a trinket, then haste, of course, becomes way lower of a value for you. But this haste proc is quite huge. So this would be kind of the way that your rogue will maintain a lot of extra haste. If you get this trinket again, try to prioritize more versatility, critical strike, and mastery if you end up nabbing this trinket for your spec. Outside of that, some of the other good weapons, the daggers are also pretty good. They have a little bit of corruption on it, and if you're playing with corruption traits, this is nice. But also, it gives you Mind Flay Tentacle, which does quite a bit of damage. This isn't the strongest corruption, but it's still pretty good, and these are pretty good daggers to pick up from the raid if they do drop on Carapace. That'll be one of the ways that you can try farming, doing this raid on normal and heroic, going for Carapace, and trying to see if a decent dagger drops. This would be a good starter dagger, but again, some of the other corruptions might be a little stronger. I'll have a link on all the Assassination Rogue corruptions available, and this is going to be the best ones for Assass for a single target. But Gushing Wound seems to be a really strong one, then Infinite Stars, and then just about every other corruption that gives you secondary stats. So you might want to look for anything that's either Infinite Stars, Gushing Wound, make sure to keep those, and then just about anything that increases any of your secondary stats, be it haste, versatility, mastery, or critical strike. And finally, we have ourselves some essences. The essences are going to be very important, and they are going to change based on your playstyle. But we are to look at that single target here, so this should be pretty easy. If you are running with a guild, and your guild is all using Worldvane Resonance, this one is incredibly strong. When you have at least 3 other people around you, like 3 other melees that are going to be in the same position as you throughout the fight, running Worldvane Resonance, this has a lot of value. 1 minute cooldown and gives you 4,000 extra primary stat. That means 4,000 extra agility during your vendettas. So you'll be able to use 1 during vendetta and 1 out of vendetta. The way I would use Whirlwind Resonance is I would pop it before popping Vendetta, just to make sure that these shards are up, and I'm trying to min-max the value of Vendetta rather than min-maxing the value of Whirlwind Resonance. If you don't have a guild that's running or group that you're running with that is using all Whirlwind, some of the other more comparable essences are going to be Memory of Lucid Dream is simming really well. You'll use it towards the later half of Vendetta as you are almost out of energy to keep trucking and keep spamming Mutilates. You also have Condensed Life Force. If you still have it from the last raid, it's still good. It has been nerfed, but it still is a decent choice. And then lastly, Blood of the Enemy will be another great single target option. However, if you have none of these and you still want to play yourself some Assassination Rogue, Crucible of Flame is a decent single target option, or if you are working on Breath of the Dying, that's also a decent single target if you are just starting out. For our passives, we are going to want specific ones. Memory of Lucid Dream is going to be mandatory because the energy regen it gives you is quite huge. Even if you have this one at like the lowest possible rank, this one is still quite incredible. Breath of the Dying is also really good if you're running a little bit too much corruption. This one will be really good at rank 3 when you have it at a final rank. This will be insane, but right now as I have it, it's only rank 2, so it doesn't have the extra bonuses for damage. Outside of that, you can also run Conflict and Strife. The versatility it gives you, and versatility that the game is like, hey, you need a lot more of, is quite good in terms of the proc, and it builds up pretty good. It does build up a little slower, so you're not going to be able to massively use it during your first Vendetta, but every other Vendetta and the rest of the fights, you will be able to get quite a bit of versatility value. Another one that's also really good is Essence of Focusing Iris. It gives you freebie haste just for having this as a minor. And if you're not really focusing on haste with gear, trying to mash out the massive amount of versatility, master your critical strike, this one can give you quite a bit of haste as well. Also, Blood of the Enemy can be good if you just don't have anything else. And outside of that, it looks like even Unbound Force might be decent, but this one is just too inconsistent. And those are going to be your viable options. Pick which ones you prefer, pick which ones you like, or sim your character. Either way works. And now we can finally talk about the rotation and the playstyle of Assassination Rogue. It takes a lot of prep work just to get Assassination on board to be ready to do the damage, but the damage part is actually very easy. So when it comes to playing your Assassination Rogue, the damage part is going to be extremely easy. You generally want to stand behind the enemy or to the side of them so you're not getting parried. I believe the strain dummies won't parry me, but I'll stand on the side here either way. The rotation is going to be very simple. First, make sure your poisons are up. You will be surprised how many rogues miss having poisons on. Am I running any specific trinkets? I'm not running any crazy ones. I have the Ashwin Call, which I'll apply in the opener, and the idea is I would use it every other Vendetta. I would have it on the target, wait until I have Vendetta up, and then use it with my Vendetta for the extra critical strike. It'll actually be up for the same duration as a Vendetta, so that one I'll keep as is. I am running Whirlwind Resonance, so I'm going to be popping that right before I pop Vendetta. But the general playstyle of Assassination, let me show you first of all the normal rotation. Use Mutilates in order to build common points. Maintain Rupture on your enemy. Maintain Go Road at all times. You can refresh Rupture at 6 seconds before it's over, and it'll go into Pandemic, so you'll have a longer duration of Rupture at a maximum of 32 seconds. The road can be refreshed at 3 seconds. So as long as you don't need to refresh either one of those dots, you build up common points and use Envenoms. And when you have Envenom, you are able to generate far more poison applications. So then you would use Envenom and then you would Mutilate. That would proc your double dose in order to deal quite a bit of extra damage. Your dots are about to fall off, make sure they never do, and just keep using Mutilates to build common points and using Envenoms. Now there's two types of playstyles of basics for Assassination. You could either just use the energy as it comes to you, or you can do a little bit of cheeky pulling. Pulling energy means you're just waiting for your energy to be almost full before you really start doing big damage. So I'm going to Mutilate, I'm going to wait and pull my energy. I'm not going to use Envenom as soon as I get a chance. At about 100 energy, I'll Envenom to make sure that I'm getting the value of double dose from my Mutilate. This becomes a lot more important if you have a bunch of stacks of double dose on your traits. Outside of that, I feel like you could just spam. The damage difference I notice is very, very minor, and I feel like whether you spam or whether you don't, you are getting yourself maybe like 2-3% extra damage output on it. But of course, if you just want to spam your playstyle where you're trying to get the most amount of damage on an enemy, you won't really be punished either. And then there's also Toxic Blade that I haven't talked about. The talent of Toxic Blade, you should try to use it. And try to use as many nature-based abilities during Toxic Blade as possible. Same thing is applied with your Mutilate and Double Dose. You can either wait until you have yourself ability to gain a bunch of mutilates and envenoms, or you could just spam it out. What I like doing with Toxic Blade sometimes is I do pull energy sometimes for Toxic Blade in order to make sure that I have a good setup. I have 5 common points. I'm actually going to wait. I am going to eat up the extra common point of Toxic Blade. It's generally not a good idea. Actually, I won't do it since I'm almost capping out. But Toxic Blade, I'm trying to spam as many envenoms as humanly possible, because those will be buffed by the damage of my Toxic Blade. But sometimes you do have dots that can go in the way, which for Assassination, it's really all about trying to figure out when is the good time to refresh dots and when it's a good time to get envenoms rolling to really get the big damage out. Now, this becomes easier after you go through your opener, because your opener kind of sets you up for a really good playstyle. Like right now, being able to, Toxic Blade and then having to go road for 45 energy just doesn't feel that great, but I am still getting quite a bit of resources here. But this is going to be the general playstyle of base abilities. Let me show you what the opener looks like and what the full big rotation is going to look like, and then kind of just go from my opener rotation, transition into my base rotation, so you can kind of see what the damage is supposed to look like. I don't have any pre-pots, I'm not going to be using those. I don't have any flasks either, I'm not going to be using those here. I'm trying to save any of those for the raid. So the damage is always going to be higher when you do have yourself fully flasked up and buffed by the raid. So the damage here is going to be kind of okay-ish, but it is going to be higher within a real situation. Alright, you will open up with Mutilate, Rupture, Mutilate, Garrote, into World Vein, Vendetta at some point throughout that. You should also throw in your Ashwind Razor Coral, Toxic Blade, Vanish, Envenom in order to get the crit for your Envenom, then Mutilate until 4 or 5 common points, and then Envenom. Mutilate until 4 or 5 common points, and then Envenom as much as you can. And then Cure Blast and Damage. Make sure at some point to refresh your bleeds before they fall off. And then go on with the base rotation. So it looks something like this. Mutilate, Rupture, Mutilate, Garrote. We're gonna World Vein, Vendetta, Vanish, Envenom to get the big Envenom crit. Mutilates are actually giving us plenty of common points. We're doing just fine. Mutilate some more. Ignore the big eyeball. That's just a corruption trying to hurt me a little. We're gonna refresh our bleeds here. I got my racial that I can use just for fun since I have Vendetta up and running. And now we transition into our base rotation. I am going to just spam through my rotation. I'm not going to be too methodological about it. We are going to try to see if we can Toxic Blade here as soon as we can. And Venom right after. I'm actually taking quite a bit of damage from this eyeball. Next time it spawns, I might want to cloak, because otherwise I'll actually be dead. Sometimes the eyeball spawn and they could kill you, but normally you'll be inside of a dungeon or a raid, so it won't ever be an issue. Of course, as a rogue, if you don't need Cloak of Shadows for any part of the raid, you could just Cloak of Shadows it. And here goes my playstyle. That's all you essentially do as Assassination. The damage is always going to be better with better gear. I don't have the newest daggers either. I don't have the newest weapons, as those are going to be huge in terms of your value damage. I do hold World Vein up, and I kind of want to use it on cooldown to make sure that it's always going to be up right before a Vendetta. World Vein again going to be more valuable inside of a group content, so for single target here, it's not giving me the most amount of value, but it still is really decent nonetheless. Vendetta is coming up soon, so we kind of want to make sure we are refreshing our dots. We're going to pop Vendetta here. We didn't have Toxic Blade. It's a good idea to save Toxic Blade with a Vendetta. But the timer for that might be something you guys might have to get used to first. Toxic Blade, we're going to wait for that a little bit to make sure our Envenoms are doing the most amount of damage. We should have popped Coral actually, just to give us all that fat crit as well. And we even got trained damage so low, we had a huge proc of Conductive Ink. That's also going to go into some damage for Assassination as well. Did that proc during Vendetta too? It did quite a bit of damage, didn't it? 1 million, yeah. Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned, my damage is going to be a little bit lower because of Ink Pod, but eventually it does proc through the boss fight, and it procs for quite a bit. Now, with that one proc, literally by that alone, I'm at 79k DPS. That's literally all that was missing. We'll just Cloak of Shadows the eyeball as it's sitting on us. And that's more or less 2 minutes have passed, and you can actually gain quite a bit of damage as Assassination throughout the full 5-minute fight, or however long it takes. We're gonna save the calm points here for a little bit, so we can get the big Vendetta rolling. Actually gonna Vanish, Mutilate, and that'll give us the crit we need. Venom as often as we can while Vendetta is up and giving us that 50% critical strike. Well, actually we had for a little bit of time 100% critical strike, which is super nice. because of the way the Vanish works, giving us 50% and the Coral working together with the crit buff that it provides. And that's Assassination in a nutshell. I would have to say it's honestly one of the easier specs to pick up and play. There is a little bit of depth to get into as you play it regularly. Again, maximizing the uptime of your Toxic Blade, making sure that you're lining up every Toxic Blade with a Vendetta. That means delaying one Toxic Blade. You also maxing your dot uptime. You could get add-ons in order to tell you exactly when to refresh your dots to make sure you have the most value out of it. And overall, I would say the spec really would benefit the most. Some of it would be from playstyle, but most of it would be from gear. At a rate where I'm at with my Assassination, the damage of my Assass is nowhere near as high as what my Outlaw can put out. So, but that's because I'm mostly investing majority of my time into my Outlaw Rogue. So if I were to invest more gear into Assassination, I think I would be about the same, if not higher than my Outlaw, but I just don't have the same drive to play the spec. But I recognize just how important it is, and the importance of learning the spec, the basics, in order to put out considerably good damage in a pure single target fight, a fight where Outlaw might be finding itself just a little bit lacking. I mean, you have to choose whether you want to just play a spec that you like or actually get progression on bosses. And sometimes you're able to do both, sometimes you're not able to, and playing through Eternal Palace as a Zakul again was particularly good fight for Assassination, where Outlaw could be beneficial, but if we are lacking some cleave-based classes where my Outlaw couldn't go excelling, it was much easier for me to go Assassination, throw down the Rock Boy onto the boss whenever I needed it, and call it a day. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always guys, I'll see all of you in another video.